Every time you avoid the hard thing, whether it's waking up early, studying, or pushing through discomfort, you're training your brain to quit. The truth is, the strongest minds aren't born with discipline. They've built it by doing what most people resist. Imagine having a brain that listens to you, no matter how you feel. No more procrastination, no more excuses, just relentless action. In a few moments, I'll teach you how to rewire your mind to do hard things automatically so you stop waiting for motivation and start acting on command. Because once you gain this control, your brain becomes your greatest weapon, and nothing will ever stop your progress again. 1. Understanding the mind's resistance. Your greatest battle isn't with the world, it's with your own mind. The brain is built for survival, not greatness. It craves comfort, safety, and predictability. It wants to keep you exactly where you are because that's where it feels in control. The moment you try to rise, the mind resists. It throws doubts, excuses, fears, and whispers soft lies to pull you back into the warmth of comfort. Do it later. You've done enough. You deserve a break. It sounds kind, but it's the voice that kills growth. That voice isn't your friend. It's the guardian of your limits. It protects your comfort, but destroys your potential. Think about the times you promised yourself change. You said you'd start training, focus harder, wake up earlier, be more disciplined. But when the moment arrived, you felt that invisible weight pressing you down. That's not laziness, it's resistance. It's your brain trying to keep things easy, trying to convince you that struggle is unnecessary. But the truth is, the mind only grows through struggle. Just like a muscle needs pressure to strengthen, your mind needs discomfort to expand. Every time you resist that resistance, you become stronger. Every time you give in, you weaken your control. You have to understand that this battle is not physical. It's mental. It's not the task itself that's hard. It's the story your mind tells you about it. The mind exaggerates pain, magnifies difficulty, and underestimates your ability. It convinces you that doing hard things is unbearable when, in truth, it's only uncomfortable for a while. That temporary discomfort is the price of progress. And if you can sit with it, breathe through it, push through it, it transforms you. Discomfort is not a signal to stop. It's proof that you're breaking barriers. It's the sound of your limits being tested. The greatest mistake people make is thinking that struggle means failure. They believe that if something feels difficult, it's not meant for them. But the truth is the opposite. The moment you feel resistance, that's where the growth begins. When your mind says, I don't want to, that's the exact moment you must. The pain of pushing forward lasts for a moment, but the strength it gives you lasts forever. The more often you walk through discomfort, the less power it has over you. Soon, the things that once felt unbearable become part of your nature. What was once impossible becomes your new normal. You must train your mind to see resistance differently. Instead of avoiding it, welcome it. When the voice says, stay comfortable, smile. That's your cue that something important lies ahead. Every time you choose discomfort over ease, you're telling your mind, I am in control now. It will fight back at first. It will try to wear you down, whisper doubts, and test your patience. But if you keep showing up, something powerful happens. The mind begins to listen. It begins to obey the very part of you that once resisted. Your command starts following them. That's when discipline becomes natural. There is a moment after enough struggle when the resistance quiets. You wake up, and instead of battling your thoughts, you simply act. You no longer debate whether to do what must be done, you just do it. That's the moment of mastery. You have rewired your mind through repetition and persistence. You've proven that you're stronger than your emotions, stronger than comfort, stronger than hesitation. The same brain that once held you back now pushes you forward. Understand this. Your mind isn't your enemy. It's your training ground. It's meant to test you, to push you, to make sure you truly want what you're chasing. Every challenge, every moment of doubt, every pull toward comfort is part of the process. The resistance will never fully disappear, but you'll stop fearing it. You'll learn to move through it calmly, powerfully, deliberately. And when you do, life opens up. Because the person who can control their mind can control their world. Once you master your thoughts, no obstacle can stop you. The world will bend to your will, because you've already conquered the hardest thing there is, the war within yourself. 2. Discipline over motivation, the true source of power. Motivation is a spark, but sparks fade fast. One day you wake up filled with energy, ready to take on the world. The next day that fire is gone, replaced by hesitation and excuses. That's how motivation works. It's built on emotion, and emotion is never steady. If you rely on it, you'll move only when you feel inspired. But greatness doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from consistency. It comes from showing up on the days you least want to. That's where discipline steps in. Discipline is the bridge between intention and action. It's the quiet force that makes you move, even when your mind screams to stop. Most people wait to feel ready, but that moment never truly arrives. Waiting for motivation is just another form of procrastination, dressed as patience. The truth is, you act first and the feeling comes later. The strongest people aren't born with endless drive. They've simply mastered the art of acting without emotion. They've taught their minds that how they feel in the moment doesn't decide what they do. When it's time to act, they act. When it's time to push, they push. Their power doesn't come from passion. It comes from persistence. Discipline is the armor of the mind. It protects you from the ups and downs of your own emotions. It gives you structure when everything else feels chaotic. It doesn't ask, do I feel like it? Commands do it anyway. The first few times you act without motivation, it feels heavy. Your body resists, your thoughts rebel, and your comfort zone fights to pull you back. But every time you push through that resistance, you gain strength. You teach your brain to obey your command. You build trust in yourself, the kind of trust that says, no matter how I feel, I will follow through. That trust is power. It's what separates the average from the exceptional. The average person works when it's easy. The disciplined person works when it's hard. The average person stops when it hurts. The disciplined one keeps going because they've learned that pain is temporary, but pride lasts. Discipline doesn't ask for excitement. It asks for commitment. It's the repeated act of choosing progress over comfort, action over excuses, purpose over feelings. There's a moment in every journey where you'll want to quit. You'll feel tired, bored, frustrated, convinced it's not worth it. That's when discipline shows its true strength. Motivation would have abandoned you by now, but discipline reminds you why you started. It whispers, keep going. You've come too far to stop here. And when you listen to that voice, when you push through the resistance, something powerful happens. You no longer depend on fleeting emotions, you depend on your will. Over time, something changes deep inside you. The things that once felt impossible start to feel routine. The tasks that once required all your strength become effortless. The effort doesn't disappear, you just become stronger than the struggle. Discipline reshapes the mind, transforms I can't into I will. It rewires your thoughts to see hard things, not as burdens, but as opportunities to grow. And when that shift happens, you realize that you no longer need to chase motivation because you've built something better. Discipline gives you freedom. It frees you from the constant battle with your emotions. It frees you from waiting for the perfect moment. It gives you control over your own destiny. The disciplined person doesn't hope for progress, they create it. They don't wish for strength, they earn it, one choice at a time. In the end, discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It's about being loyal to your goals. It's about honoring your word, keeping your promises, and standing firm when it would be easier to walk away. Motivation might light the path, but discipline is what carries you to the finish line. When you live with discipline, hard things stop feeling impossible. They become part of who you are. And that's when you realize the truth: discipline doesn't just change what you do. Changes who you become. 3. Start small, win big. Training the mind gradually. The brain is a creature of habit. It doesn't transform overnight, and it doesn't respond well to sudden change. It learns slowly through repetition, through doing the same thing again and again until it becomes natural. That's why you can't expect instant mastery when you start something hard. You can't run before you learn to walk, and you can't build strength without first learning to carry weight. The mind works the same way. It resists at first, it complains, it tires easily, it wants to retreat back into comfort. But if you stay consistent, if you show up every day and take that one uncomfortable step, the resistance begins to fade. The mind starts to adapt. Every small act of effort teaches your brain a new lesson: that you can endure, that you can handle discomfort, that quitting is not an option. It doesn't happen in one grand moment of inspiration. It happens in quiet moments of repetition. The first time you face a challenge, your mind might panic. It might tell you it's too much, too soon, too hard. But once you push through and survive that first test, you realize it wasn't as impossible as it seemed. The next time you go a little further. The time after that, even more. Each repetition strengthens not just your skill, but your belief in yourself. This is the truth of growth. Real progress is slow, quiet, and often invisible. You won't always see the results right away, but that doesn't mean they aren't happening. Every time you choose effort over ease, you're reshaping the way your brain responds to challenge. You're teaching it to associate effort with progress, not pain. Eventually, what once felt heavy begins to feel light. What once drained your energy begins to build it. The same task that once made you doubt yourself becomes part of your rhythm. Think of it like training a muscle. The first time you lift something heavy, it hurts. Your arms shake, your body protests, but you don't stop. You return the next day and the next, and each time your strength grows, the mind works no differently. Every repetition builds mental endurance. Every time you refuse to quit, your mind learns that effort is not dangerous, it's normal, and once effort becomes normal, greatness becomes possible. Consistency is the quiet power behind all transformation. It's not about intensity, it's about persistence. It's easy to give everything for one day, but it takes real strength to give something every day. That's where true change happens. The mind learns through pattern. When you show up again and again, no matter how tired, bored, or unmotivated you feel, you build a pattern that says, I keep going. Over time, that pattern becomes part of who you are. You stop relying on bursts of motivation. You start moving automatically, guided by discipline instead of emotion. There will be days when progress feels invisible, when the effort seems wasted, but those are the days that matter most. That's when the foundation is being built. Growth doesn't come in big, dramatic leaps. It arrives quietly through the daily grind, through the moments no one sees. Each small step is a brick laid in the structure of your strength. Miss enough days and that structure weakens. Stay consistent and it becomes unshakable. And here's the truth, the mind never stops learning. The more you expose it to challenge, the more it evolves. It learns that fear is temporary. It learns that struggle brings reward. It learns that repetition is not punishment, it's preparation. The secret isn't to make life easier. It's to make yourself stronger through daily effort. Every day you show up, even in silence, even when no one notices, you are training your brain to obey you, not your emotions. When you understand that, persistence becomes power. You stop chasing quick results, you stop fearing slow progress. You realize that the process itself, the daily discipline, the repeated effort is what shapes you. Growth is not about one great leap. It's about 1,000 small steps taken with unwavering consistency. And when you finally look back, you'll see how far those steps have carried you, not because you were perfect, but because you never stopped showing up. For the power of self-command, you must learn to give yourself an order and follow it without hesitation, without argument, without debate. The moment you decide, you act, no second thoughts, no delays. When you say you'll rise early, you rise. When you say you'll work, you work. When you say you'll stop complaining, you stop. Because every time you break a promise to yourself, you teach your mind that your words mean nothing. You lose trust in yourself. But when you keep your word, when you act, the moment you decide, you build something rare, self-command. And that command is the root of all discipline, all strength, and all progress. Your mind is always watching you. It learns from your behavior more than your intentions. If you tell yourself you'll do something and you don't, it records that failure. The next time, it becomes even harder to follow through because your brain no longer believes your commands. But if you act immediately, even when it's uncomfortable, your mind learns obedience. It learns that when you speak, you mean it. That's how authority over yourself is built, through action, not words. This is the difference between the strong and the weak. The weak man listens to his feelings. The strong one listens to his word. Feelings change by the hour, they rise and fall like the tide. But your word must be unshakable. The moment you start listening to comfort, discipline dies. You cannot build greatness on excuses. You cannot grow if you keep negotiating with laziness. The second you hesitate, your emotions take control. But when you act instantly, you seize power from hesitation itself. You tell your mind, I decide, not you. That is how self-mastery begins. Self-command is not about being harsh, it's about being reliable. It's about knowing that when you give yourself a command, you will follow through no matter what. That kind of consistency creates strength that no external force can shake. You become the type of person who moves without needing motivation, who acts without needing comfort, who finishes what they start simply because they said they would. The world begins to bend to the will of those who can control themselves. There will always be moments when your mind argues back. It will try to persuade you to rest a little longer, to start later, to take it easy just this once. It will come disguised as kindness, whispering that you deserve a break. But that voice is not kindness, it's weakness. The way to silence it is through immediate action. When the thought appears, move before it finishes speaking. Every time you do, you chip away at its power. Soon hesitation fades and action becomes automatic. When you live with self-command, life becomes simpler. You no longer waste energy deciding what to do or wondering if you should act. You just do it. The mind becomes your servant, not your master. You say go and it moves. You say focus and it obeys. That obedience gives you control over your time, your habits, your destiny. The chaos of indecision disappears, replaced by clarity and strength. The more you keep your word to yourself, the louder your inner voice becomes. It stops whispering doubts and starts giving commands with confidence. You begin to trust yourself deeply, because you know you'll always follow through. That trust is the foundation of true confidence, not pride, not arrogance, but the quiet certainty that when it's time to act, you will act. With time, self-command transforms into instinct. You no longer force yourself to do hard things, they simply happen because that's who you've become. The hesitation that once controlled you vanishes. You rise when you say you'll rise. You work when it's time to work. You no longer seek motivation because your nature itself has become disciplined. That is the ultimate power, to rule your own mind, to give an order and obey it instantly. Once you master that, there is nothing you cannot conquer. 5. Turning discomfort into strength. Pain is not your enemy. It's your greatest teacher. It arrives when you least expect it, breaking the illusion of comfort and revealing who you truly are. Pain strips away the mask, exposes your weakness, and demands growth. It doesn't care about your plans or excuses. It tests your will, your patience, and your faith in yourself. Every person who has ever achieved anything of worth has walked through pain. It sharpens you, shapes you, and builds the foundation of real strength. Without it, you remain soft, untested, and fragile. When your mind feels pain, its first reaction is to flee. It screams for escape, for relief, for comfort. That's human nature, the instinct to avoid discomfort. But what separates the strong from the weak is how they respond to that instinct. Most people run. They retreat into the familiar, where nothing hurts but nothing grows. But the strong, they stay. They breathe through the pain. They allow the fire to burn because they know it is forging something within them that comfort never could. The truth is, pain is the price of becoming powerful. Every challenge, every failure, every obstacle has a purpose. When you are denied something you wanted, when plans fall apart, when people disappoint you, that is pain doing its work. It's breaking down the weaker parts of you so the stronger ones can emerge. The mind learns more in suffering than it ever does in ease. Pain teaches patience, humility, and endurance. It reminds you that life doesn't hand out rewards to those who want things to be easy. It gives them to those who endure what others refuse to face. When you stop running from pain, you take your power back. You begin to see it for what it is, a teacher, not a punishment. Pain doesn't arrive to destroy you. It arrives to build you. Every hardship carries a lesson. And if you can endure long enough to learn it, you evolve. The storms that once terrified you begin to look like opportunities. You start to understand that growth is not supposed to feel good. Progress demands sacrifice, and that sacrifice often feels like pain. But once you accept that truth, you become unstoppable. There is a point where pain stops being something you fear and becomes something you respect. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start saying, what is this trying to teach me? That shift changes everything. The weight that once crushed you becomes the very thing that strengthens you. You stop avoiding challenges and start walking toward them, because you know that every trial carries a reward on the other side. Pain gives you the kind of confidence that can't be faked, the quiet strength of someone who has suffered and survived. Most people spend their lives trying to protect themselves from discomfort, but in doing so, they protect themselves from growth. The mind grows through resistance, not ease. Just as muscles tear before they grow stronger, the mind must endure pressure to expand. The first time you face real pain, it feels unbearable. But as you stay with it, as you refuse to run, you begin to realize something powerful: you can handle it. You can survive what you thought you couldn't. That realization changes everything. Pain refines you, it burns away weakness, excuses, and illusions. It exposes what truly matters and reveals what kind of person you are when comfort is stripped away. It demands that you dig deeper, that you find strength you didn't know you had. And when you rise through it, you're not the same person anymore. You're stronger, wiser, more disciplined. You've proven to yourself that no feeling, no obstacle, no hardship can break you. The moment you stop fearing pain and start using it, you begin to transform. You stop seeing it as suffering and start seeing it as a signal that you're alive, that you're growing. Pain becomes fuel, it becomes direction. And when you reach that level of understanding, life's challenges stop defeating you. They start building you. Because every time pain knocks you down and you rise again, you become less fragile, less afraid, and far more powerful than before. 6. Eliminate excuses, the enemy of progress. Excuses are the silent poison that weakens the mind. They whisper softly, offering comfort, offering safety, convincing you that it's okay to stop trying. They sound reasonable, even logical. I'm tired, I don't have time. It's not the right moment. But behind every excuse is fear, the fear of discomfort, of failure, of facing your own limits. The moment you say, I can't, you hand over your strength to that fear. You surrender your control and your potential begins to fade. Excuses don't destroy you all at once. They destroy you slowly, quietly, until one day you look back and realize how much you've lost because you kept waiting for the perfect moment that never came. Excuses are chains soft enough to feel harmless, strong enough to keep you trapped. Every time you use one, you make those chains tighter. You teach your mind that comfort matters more than growth, that avoidance is easier than effort. But every time you push past an excuse, you loosen those chains. You remind your brain who is truly in charge. The difference between the weak and the strong isn't talent, luck, or opportunity. It's how they deal with excuses. The weak accept them, the strong reject them. The strong act anyway, not because they don't feel resistance, but because they've learned that excuses are lies told by a fearful mind. When your mind says later, that's when you must move. Later becomes never and never becomes regret. Every delay feeds weakness. Every action, no matter how small, feeds strength. The brain is always listening to your words, always adapting to what you tell it. If you keep saying, I can't, your brain will believe you. If you keep saying, I will, it will prepare to act. Your thoughts build your world and your excuses tear it down. When you speak strength, you build strength. When you speak doubt, you build fear. The truth is, your mind doesn't care what you say, it only obeys. It will believe the story you repeat. So what story are you telling it? The one of power or the one of weakness? Every I'll try tomorrow trains your brain to delay. Every I'll do it now trains it to act. If you keep feeding it excuses, it will keep searching for them. But if you start feeding it action, it will begin to crave progress. You'll notice that hesitation fades. What once felt heavy will begin to feel lighter. The more you move, the less you think. The less you think, the freer you become. Excuses are dangerous because they feel right in the moment. They give relief, they calm the guilt, they make you believe you've made a wise choice. But that comfort is short-lived. Tomorrow the same excuse returns, stronger, louder, harder to resist. And then comes the guilt, the silent weight of knowing you could have done more. The truth is, excuses don't protect you, they punish you slowly. They don't keep you safe, they keep you small. You must train your mind to recognize excuses for what they are, traps disguised as kindness. When that inner voice tells you to rest when you haven't earned it, to stop when there's more to give, to wait until you feel ready, confront it. Tell it, no, we move now. You'll feel resistance, you'll feel discomfort. But that's how the chains begin to break. And once they do, you'll realize how much power was hiding beneath all those justifications. Action is the cure, movement is freedom. Even the smallest step forward weakens the voice of excuse. Each time you choose to act instead of waiting, you reclaim a piece of your strength. The mind that once sought escape begins to seek challenge. It stops looking for reasons not to and starts looking for ways to. That is how transformation begins, not through perfect moments, but through imperfect action. Excuses may comfort you today, but they will haunt you tomorrow. They'll echo in the silence of regret, reminding you of the things you could have done, the person you could have become. Don't let that happen. The cost of comfort is always your potential. The cost of effort is always progress. Choose the harder path. Speak strength, act boldly, and never give your mind a satisfaction of surrender. Because every excuse you kill makes you stronger, freer, and closer to becoming the person you were meant to be. 7. Training the brain through repetition. Your mind is a creature of rhythm. It thrives on repetition, on patterns, on consistency. When you repeat something day after day, your brain begins to recognize it, expect it, and eventually obey it without resistance. That is the quiet power of routine. It reshapes your mind from the inside out. At first, every action feels heavy, every effort feels forced. But as you repeat it, the struggle begins to fade. What once required willpower begins to happen naturally. Hard things stop feeling hard. They turn into habits, and habits turn into identity. The mistake most people make is believing they need to feel inspired every day to act. They wait for energy, for motivation, for the perfect moment. But discipline doesn't wait, it moves. Routine is how you train your mind to move without thinking, without negotiating, without hesitation. When you make the same choice at the same time day after day, your brain stops wasting energy on deciding. The argument in your head disappears. You simply do what you've trained yourself to do. You've removed the question of, should I, and replaced it with certainty? I will. The truth is, your mind resists unpredictability. Every time you change your decisions or your timing, you reopen the door for doubt. But when your actions are fixed, when your pattern is solid, the brain learns obedience. It stops rebelling because it knows what to expect. That's why consistency is more powerful than intensity. Doing something once with full effort means little if you can't do it again tomorrow. But doing something every day, even with small effort, builds momentum. It sends a message to your mind. This is who I am now. And the more often you reinforce that message, the stronger it becomes. Routine is not a cage, it's a weapon. It removes the chaos of choice. It frees your mind from the daily battle of deciding whether to act. Once you've chosen, the rest becomes simple. You don't wake up wondering if you should start. You just start. The act becomes as natural as breathing, as automatic as walking. That is when your routine turns into discipline, and your discipline turns into freedom. Because true freedom isn't doing whatever you want, it's having full control over what you choose to do. At first, the brain will fight, it will try to break the pattern to convince you that one missed day doesn't matter, that you deserve a break. But that's the test. Every routine demands a price, repetition before reward. And if you push through the early resistance, you'll feel the shift. The effort that once drained you begins to fuel you. Your routine starts to give you strength instead of taking it away. The same pattern that once felt like work becomes part of your nature. Over time, your routine becomes your armor. It shields you from the chaos of emotion, distraction, and laziness. While others are swayed by how they feel, you move steadily, anchored in your habits. You don't rely on mood, you rely on mastery. And mastery comes from doing the same thing again and again with unwavering focus. Each repetition strengthens your foundation, builds your confidence, and deepens your control. You begin to trust yourself fully, because you know you'll show up no matter what. This is how greatness is built, not through sudden bursts of effort, but through quiet, consistent repetition. The routine you create today shapes the person you'll become tomorrow. Every morning you rise with purpose, every task you complete with focus, every action you repeat with discipline, it all rewires your mind. You stop trying to act disciplined because discipline becomes your identity. And that's the ultimate transformation, when doing the hard thing no longer feels like a fight. You don't have to force yourself anymore because you've become the kind of person who simply does it. Routine turns into instinct, effort turns into ease, and persistence turns into power. You no longer depend on willpower, you live by design. You no longer chase results, you embody them, because when the mind learns consistency, the battle is already won. Silence the inner voice of weakness. There's a voice in every mind that whispers doubt. It starts quietly, almost gently, telling you to stop, to rest, to wait, to take it easy. Sounds harmless, even kind. It promises comfort and relief, convincing you that slowing down is the right thing to do. But that voice is not your friend. It's your greatest enemy. It feeds on hesitation, grows stronger with every excuse, and thrives each time you give in. The more you listen, the louder it becomes. Soon it begins to control you, not with force but with subtle persuasion. That's how weakness wins, not in battles you see, but in the quiet moments when you choose comfort over courage. You can't escape that voice completely, but you can train yourself to rise above it. The key is to act before it convinces you. The moment you start to hesitate, move. The moment it tells you to stop, push harder, because the instant you take action, that voice loses its grip. It feeds on delay, on the space between decision and movement. When you act immediately, it has no room to speak. Every time you move before the doubt settles, you reclaim a piece of your strength. The mind learns that you, not the voice, are in control. That's how warriors are built, not by pretending the weakness isn't there, but by facing it every day and refusing to surrender. The strongest people aren't fearless, they simply stop listening to the voice that tells them they can't. They still hear it, but they move anyway. Over time, that act of defiance becomes habit. The voice still whispers, but it no longer commands. It fades, replaced by something far more powerful, the voice of discipline, the voice of belief, the voice of strength. The inner voice of weakness often disguises itself as reason. It tells you you're too tired, that it's too late, that you've done enough. It sounds logical, but its goal is the same: to protect you from discomfort. And while comfort may feel safe, it slowly robs you of growth. You start lowering your standards, accepting less from yourself, convincing yourself that this is enough, but deep down you know it isn't. You know that every time you give in, a part of you gets smaller. You lose a bit of that fire, that drive, that will to push forward. And one day, if you keep obeying that voice, you forget what strength even feels like. You silence that weakness through action, not through words, not through promises, but through movement. When your mind says rest and you keep going, you're teaching it a lesson. It no longer decides what you do. When it says you can't and you prove that you can, it begins to obey you instead of command you. This is how mental toughness is built. Each act of resistance makes the voice weaker, and your will stronger. Over time, it becomes easier to push through. The thoughts that once stopped you lose their weight. They appear, but you don't believe them anymore. True power comes when you no longer argue with that voice, you simply act. You stop giving it attention, you stop negotiating with it. You move with purpose, and in that movement the noise disappears. The silence that follows isn't emptiness, it's clarity. It's the moment your mind finally understands that comfort no longer controls you. You've proven that the desire for ease will not dictate your destiny. The inner voice will never vanish completely, it will always try to return, always try to test you. But each time you face it, it grows quieter. Each time you refuse to bend, you stand taller. The world sees your calm, your focus, your discipline. But what they don't see is the battle you fight within. The quiet war between strength and comfort. And every time you choose to act in spite of that weakness, you win. That's what separates those who rise from those who fall. The strong don't wait for silence before they move. They move until silence follows. The weak listen to the voice until it becomes their truth. The strong act until the voice has no choice but to obey. And in that moment, when you stand unshaken, with your mind under your command, you'll know you've won the greatest victory there is. The one against yourself. The power of consistency over intensity. Many start strong, few stay strong. It's easy to be excited at the beginning, to feel unstoppable, when motivation is high and the path seems clear. But strength isn't measured in how loud you start. It's measured in how long you last. The truth is, intensity burns bright but burns out fast. Consistency, however, is quiet. It doesn't shout, it doesn't need attention. It simply shows up every day, building strength, brick by brick, until greatness becomes unavoidable. Anyone can push hard for a day. Anyone can endure short bursts of effort, when the energy is fresh and the challenge feels new. But only the disciplined push every day, long after the excitement fades. Consistency is what separates the dreamers from the doers, the wishes from the achievers. The real test begins when it's no longer fun, when the work feels repetitive, when progress seems invisible. That's when most people stop. But those who continue, those who move forward even when nothing seems to change, are the ones who truly transform. The brain adapts to what it sees repeatedly. At first, effort feels heavy. Discipline feels like a fight. But when the mind learns that effort is no longer optional, it stops resisting. It begins to expect challenge, to crave progress, to adapt to the pressure. That's when the difficult things become normal things. The same tasks that once felt impossible turn into your new routine. You no longer need to force yourself to act, you simply act because it's who you are now. Small steps done daily will always outlast giant leaps done occasionally. The one who moves a little every day will reach the finish line, while the one who sprints and stops will be left behind. The mind grows stronger through repetition, not speed. Progress is built in silence through ordinary days filled with steady effort. There are no shortcuts to mastery, only daily decisions to keep moving, no matter how small the step. Consistency may not feel powerful in the moment, but over time it shapes everything. It builds endurance, patience, and control. The truth about progress is that it's rarely loud, it doesn't announce itself, you don't always see it happening. But with each day of consistent effort, you're becoming stronger, sharper, more capable. You might not notice the change, but the world will. One day you look back and realize how far you've come, not through sudden bursts of energy, but through the quiet persistence of showing up. Consistency turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Consistency also builds trust within yourself. Every time you follow through, you send a message to your mind, I do what I say I will do. That trust becomes the foundation of confidence. You no longer need to rely on luck or bursts of inspiration, you rely on yourself. The one who can stay consistent no matter how they feel becomes unshakable, because they no longer depend on mood or circumstance. They move with purpose even when tired, even when bored, even when progress feels slow. It's not intensity that creates power, it's endurance. Anyone can burn bright for a moment, but few have the discipline to keep the flame alive day after day. The real warriors of life are not the ones who sprint, they are the ones who march. Step after step, day after day they move.